Before PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, even before Pong, home gaming began with a brown wood grain box built inside a military contractor. And almost nobody wanted it. In the 1960s, a television had one job: sit in the corner and show you whatever the broadcasters decided you were watching that evening. You could change the channel, adjust the volume, and occasionally hit the side when the picture started rolling. But you could not control what happened on the screen. Ralph Baer believed you should be able to. Baer was a German-born engineer whose Jewish family had escaped Nazi Germany shortly before the Second World War. After serving in the United States Army, he studied television engineering and built a career designing electronic equipment. In 1951, while working on a new television set, Baer proposed adding a game that people could play on the screen. His employer rejected the idea. Apparently, televisions were serious pieces of furniture, and serious pieces of furniture did not play games. The idea was shelved, but Baer never completely forgot it. 15 years later, he was working at Sanders Associates, a military electronics company better known for building defense technology than family entertainment. By then, millions of televisions were sitting inside American homes. Baer realized everyone was concentrating on improving the programming being transmitted to those televisions. Almost nobody was asking what else the television itself could do. So, in 1966, he wrote down a simple proposal: build a device that allowed people to play games on an ordinary television set. Today, that sounds obvious. At the time, it was like suggesting that your toaster should be able to challenge you to a boxing match. Bayer received permission to explore the idea and began working with technicians Bill Harrison and Bill Rush. Their first experiment was not exactly spectacular. They managed to display a small dot on a television screen and move it around. That was it. No heroic character, no dramatic soundtrack, no open world containing 300 hours of side quests. Just a dot. But the important part was not what the dot looked like. The important part was the person holding the controller decided where it moved. For perhaps the first time in an ordinary living room, the television was no longer merely talking to its audience. The audience could answer back. The team quickly began experimenting with chase games, shooting games, and different ways for two people to compete. Harrison even constructed a light gun that could detect bright targets on the television. Decades before plastic guitars, steering wheels, and motion controllers filled people's cupboards, Baer's team had already discovered that gamers would happily point strange accessories at their televisions. The breakthrough came when Bill Rush suggested adding a third object to the screen, one controlled by the machine rather than either player. That third object became a ball. Two-player control blocks knocked it backwards and forwards, creating an electronic game of ping-pong. The moment they played it, they knew they finally had something people would want. The project grew into a larger prototype completed around 1968. Its casing was covered in brown wood grain material, so the team gave it the most imaginative name a group of engineers could produce: the brown box. It had two controllers, each fitted with three knobs and a button. Players could move objects vertically, horizontally, and even change the direction of the ball. Different settings allowed the machine to play ping pong, handball, volleyball, target shooting, and other simple games. There was no computer inside of it, no microprocessor, no downloaded updates, and no software asking you to accept 40 pages of terms and conditions. Its games were produced using electronic circuits built from transistors, resistors, capacitors, and diodes. Cards showed players how to set the switches for each game. The images on the screen were little more than white blocks and lines, so transparent plastic overlays could be placed on the television to create tennis courts, hockey rinks, and other backgrounds. It was partly a video game and partly a board game stuck directly onto the family television. The brown box worked. Now, Bayer had to convince somebody to manufacture it. That proved surprisingly difficult. Television manufacturers understood how to sell televisions. They did not necessarily understand why anyone would want to attack one with a plastic gun. Several companies examined the invention and walked away. Eventually, Magnavox recognized its potential. Sanders licensed Bayer's technology to the company, which redesigned the brown box and released it in 1972 as the Magnavox Odyssey, the first commercial video game console. Compared with modern console, the Odyssey was incredibly basic. It had no sound, could keep no score, and displayed only a few simple shapes. Players sometimes used dice, cards, play money, and poker chips alongside the electronic action. But none of that changed what the machine represented. For the first time, consumers could purchase a dedicated gaming system, connect it to an ordinary television, and control what happened on the screen from their living rooms. Unfortunately, Magnavox marketed it poorly. Many customers were left with the mistaken impression that the Odyssey only worked with Magnavox televisions. Rather than presenting it as the beginning of a new entertainment industry, some stores treated it like an unusual accessory designed to help sell more televisions. The Odyssey achieved modest sales, but it did not become a cultural sensation. That honour went to another extremely simple game involving two paddles and a bouncing square, Pong. Atari founder Nolan Bushnell had attended a demonstration of the Odyssey in 1972 and played its table tennis game. Later that year, Atari released Pong as an arcade machine. Pong became enormously successful, famously filling its first test machine with so many quarters that the machine stopped working. Suddenly, the idea that had struggled to interest television companies looked like the beginning of an industry. Legal disputes followed. Magnavox argued that Pong and numerous other games used ideas covered by Bayer's patents. Baer's careful notebooks, diagrams, and dated prototypes helped demonstrate that his team had created television-based gaming years earlier. Atari eventually settled with Magnavox. Pong may have introduced millions of people to video games, but the brown box had already opened the door. Baer continued inventing and later helped create Simon, the electronic memory game that flashes a sequence of colored lights and then waits for you to forget it under pressure. But his greatest achievement was not a single game. Before the brown box, the television was a one-way machine. Pictures arrived and people watched them. Bayer transformed it into something interactive, a screen that could respond to our decisions. That idea led from the Magnavox Odyssey to Atari, Nintendo, and Sega, then to PlayStation, Xbox, and the enormous virtual worlds we explore today. The brown box had no detailed graphics, no recognizable characters, and not enough processing power to run a digital watch. But it contained the essential idea behind every home console that followed: a player, a controller, a screen, and something happening because the person watching decided to make it happen. Home gaming did not begin with an expensive launch event or a machine designed by an entertainment giant. It began inside a military contractor with three engineers, a moving dot, and a box covered in fake wood. The brown box did not conquer the gaming industry, it created the space in which that industry could exist. So the next time you explore a gigantic digital world, remember that the journey began with two white blocks knocking a third white block backwards and forwards. If you enjoy discovering the forgotten inventions that brought gaming into our homes, give the video a like and subscribe for more stories about the technology hiding behind everyday life. And let me know in the comments, what was the first video game console you ever played? Until next time, remember, every enormous virtual world began with one very small dot.